I do have different questions for both of you, but before we get started, do you want to introduce yourself, Andrea?
So hi everyone, I'm Andrea. I'm originally from New York, but I reside in Cranston and my business is in Cranston. I'm the owner of Cafe Ava.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Victoria. I am the owner of Haus de la Vie. We are located in North Providence, Rhode Island.
Nice. So I'm going to just give a quick bio of what I found about each of you. Please tell me if I got anything incorrect. But Andrea, so you say you're from New York, right? You came here to attend Johnson & Wales, where you majored, business administration, and you got your master's, right? You met Derek, you had your daughter who is Ava, and that's where Cafe Ava, the name, comes from. You opened in November of 2022. Your mom, Maribel, is the head chef, the pastry chef. And you started because Derek really wanted to showcase your mother's pastries, right? Yeah. So that's how your business got started, at least where the idea came from. You're Guatemalan, right? So am I. And you don't like to bake, right?
No. I enjoy doing it and like watching it, but it's not. I've always been more of like a front of house person, administration. I do enjoy making like drinks and mixology. So I used to bartend for a really long time, and then the coffee as well. Really, anything about like flavors and drinks, like that's what gets me.
And you were inspired from your travels, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. And Victoria, you also went to Johnson & Wales, right?
Yes, I did.
And you graduated with a bachelor's in tourism and travel management.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And also business management. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No. Yes, please throw that in there.
Throw that in there. I did, yes.
And you opened the same year in July of 2022, and your restaurant serves Laotian and Thai fusion. And like you said, you're in North Providence on Douglas Ave, right?
Yes.
Okay. And your birthday is on Valentine's Day?
Correct. Yes, I'm a Valentine's Day baby.
Aw, sweet. So I tried to find like a little random fact about each of you. All right, so let's get started. So I did want to start with your background. So we're going to take it back from all the way from childhood up until your current state as business owners. So Andrea, if you want to tell us a little bit about like how you grew up and how you were as a kid.
Okay, so I grew up in New York, in Astoria, Queens, and I grew up with a single mother, so it's like a full circle moment for me to be able to have her there and like give her the opportunity to do something, because I watched her my entire life clean apartments in New York City. So it's been a really amazing blessing to see her do what she actually wants to do and what she is passionate for, which is baking and creating with her hands. I forgot the rest of the question.
No, you're good. Yeah, tell us a little bit about how you grew up. So
okay.
Yeah, anything you want to add?
It was like growing up in New York City. I think it really builds a different kind of character, just like what you're exposed to. I think, sometimes I see like the life that my daughter has now and that we create for her. And it's a great opportunity for me to watch her like live that, but it was very different than like what I went through. Like I never got like dropped off at school, and just like such a nurturing moment. It really is completely different. Like I remember taking the NYC subway, at 13, 14 with another friend, just making it, every single day to school. So it's definitely just been like a shift, like watching the difference that my daughter gets to live in comparison to me.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that we all have daughters, right? So I think we're probably all raising them differently than how we were raised, which is probably true in all of human history, right? We're always trying to do better for our kids. And
I don't think it's like a bad thing, right? Like it's like what our parents could provide and like do for us, but it's just really like a impactful moment to watch them get to live the opportunities that we couldn't have when we were younger.
And I think that's so empowering that the place is named after your daughter and your mother gets to work there, and it's kind of like a family business. Yeah, that's beautiful.
And the reason why we named it after Ava was also just to represent like that, new generation, like as a first generation, person here in America, she represents that generation of kids that like will have those parents that they can, as simple things as like ask like, how do I fill out FAFSA? Like going to school on our own. Like that was stuff that we had to teach ourselves. And so she represents that shift in generation of parents that, do know, I can help you with your homework and things like that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And Victoria, you want to tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you grew up as a kid?
So I was born and raised in Providence, Rhode Island. I traveled a lot growing up with my parents, and but I did grow up with a single mother. My dad was a truck driver for over 30 years. Till this day, he still is a truck driver. My mom is a 24-hour working lady. She does not stop. I feel like I get my work ethic from her. I attended Times Square Academy. I went to a Catholic school growing up, Blessed Sacrament, and growing up, I had to be the one who actually takes charge because my mother was barely around. She worked all the time. It was just my brother and I. My mom had so many businesses, even on days when she had no babysitter. I remember her taking us in her van, my brother and I, to work with her at 5 o'clock in the morning. And at the time, her boss was actually very lenient with that, so he wouldn't mind having us there. I did have a child at a young age, right before I graduated high school, but that didn't stop me from graduating. As soon as I had my daughter, I attended Johnson & Wales, graduated, but I had some crazy upbringings, the people I was around, who I was influenced by, but I did look past all of that. I tried to be in a positive mindset growing up because my dad was barely around. How do I put this? Just growing up, like I saw how my mother worked so hard as a single mother, taking my kids, to my oldest at the time, while I was in school. It was just something that I didn't want to put her through because she was already working so hard. So I've always wanted to open up a restaurant. Okay. So I started actually working at a young age since my mom had her own business. I want to say 12. Mm-hmm. She had a jewelry business at the time, and just seeing her work so hard and, trying to provide for us alone without my father always being around because he was gone for months. Mm-hmm. As a truck driver, he does cross country. So he was never around. It's hard, she held that in a lot. So I kind of endured the pain that she had while working. She really spent any time with us. So it's a lot. It is a lot. As a single mother, having to raise 2 kids, also owning a business, it's hard when, your husband's not around, having to do everything by yourself and holding it in and not telling your children like, she always told us she got it. There are still times to this day, like my mother and I clash, but I know she means well. I had a good childhood, but also, I had to work since I was 12, helping my mom out. Until this day, the grind doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Oh, every day.
I can't imagine working with her. Does she work with you too?
Yes, we're both Aquarius, and so it's
that support is still there. That's beautiful. So seeing your mom have her own business, did you aspire to be that, like a business owner, even that early?
I did. I was actually, so my career throughout I'm 34, I'm sorry. Throughout the whole, since I actually started working, as I said, 12, I've had different career changes, as in I would always want something more for myself. So I would work in HR, and then I didn't want to work in HR. I was working in accounting. I didn't like accounting anymore. I kept changing my career. And then one day in 2019, I actually quit my 9 to 5. And I went, I traveled to South Africa, Portugal, and Spain. And then afterwards, I took my kids to Thailand for about 2 months, and then COVID happened. And I've always had the plan to open up a restaurant since 2017. We had checked out a few places, and something just didn't add up. Like, it didn't feel right. And once COVID happened, I went back to actually working again, bartending. And I was like, you know what? I just had it. And then my mom's my backbone. She has my back. Before opening up Haus de la Vie, it was a lot of work. I didn't realize how much we had to put into it, getting your licenses, your certificates, getting certified, everything. It's just a whole process. So we found a location in North Providence. It took me, I want to say, 6 months to open. And then, you have to get food safety by the health department, the fire department, everything. It was just a hassle. But once we finally did, it's up and running.
Okay, we're gonna get more into that, because I think that whole journey from the idea of having a business to actually doing it is such a long journey. So we'll definitely get back to that. Andrea, I do want to ask you some questions about your college and work experience before getting into your own business. What kind of hobbies and interests did you have while still in school, and maybe even shortly after graduating?
So when I was in school, I honestly was just I was involved a lot on campus. So I was I was a resident assistant at Johnson & Wales. I was president of my sorority. The RA stuff kind of helped pay for my dorm, because I didn't, I was here by myself. And I was also an orientation leader. So my skills were more relationship based and people based and connecting when I was on campus. And I worked small jobs, I worked at a gym, I worked at Aldo at the mall, just very simple things when I was in school for my bachelor's. I actually did travel tourism too for my bachelor's, and then I did business administration for my master's. When I graduated with my bachelor's, I got a job with the Johnson & Wales Career Fair. It was a restaurant manager in upstate New York in Lake George. It's a resort called the Sagamore Resort. So I was a restaurant manager there for a couple of months. They wanted me to relocate to Florida. I wasn't ready to do that. So I ended up just quitting the job, and I was just trying to figure it out, and so I always tell people you get a degree and then you think that you're gonna have it figured out and you're gonna have the job that you want, and that was not the case. I moved back to New York, and I was working at Bloomingdale's, which is a retail store, with my degree, and sometimes people get so discouraged because they have their degree and they don't really know what they want to do. But that was me. I was working in retail, and then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna finish my master's degree, because I already had some courses that were done my senior year. So I moved back to Rhode Island. I was getting my master's, and then I just started bartending because the program was really demanding. So I couldn't work every single day. So I think I was just bartending Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, sometimes Sundays, and then allocating the rest of my time to school. Graduated with my master's. Then I got a job at Calais. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. It's in Pawtucket, the travel. Great company, terrible pay. So, it was I got the job that I went to school for, but I continued to bartend, and I was working my big girl 9 to 5 job. So that was for some time. Then I got serious with my husband. I had my baby, and it was during COVID, and I had gotten furloughed, which a lot of people at that time were getting furloughed. Hey, we'll see. It was travel, so nobody was traveling. It was a really weird time, and I always had a love for travel. When we were in college, I did a lot of study abroads, which Johnson & Wales offers a lot of nice opportunities. So I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do after having my child that gave me the time to be at home with her, because she would say my mom always had me with babysitters, I don't remember getting picked up at school ever by my mom. It was always a babysitter that. I'm Guatemalan, but I always say I'm a little Mexican, because my my babysitter just that's who I was with all the time. So I was trying to figure out like, what do I want to do? I remember I was like selling products online and like just trying to figure it out while I had my little girl, which she was like 2. And then my husband was like, we need to open something up. Like we've just, cause he's always worked in restaurants too. Like he does real estate and stuff like that, but he has always worked in like bars or, you know, been a restaurant manager somewhere. And so we both like had the experience of running a restaurant, but like she said, like we've never owned it, right? So you don't know like all that goes into actually owning your own establishment. And it was really hard. And whoever says it's not is lying, because it's really hard. And anyone can do it, but there's a lot to it.
So tell me, what were the first 3 things you did to open your business? Once you had the idea, what was the next 3 things you did?
We had to find a location, and I think not enough people pay attention to like location. I think that's like the number one thing you have to think about, like where your business is going to succeed, because you can have a great business idea, but if you're like just in a location that it may not work, like if you don't know like your market research. No, but like for restaurants, it's different, because like this is something like you will go out of your way for, you know, but like if someone just wants like a quick coffee, like if it's taking me more than 10 minutes to park, I'm not going. Like that's just the reality of, you know, the situation in the morning, especially too. So location, I think branding is also really important. You know, I think that there's a lot of great trends and a lot of great things going on, but sometimes people are just like trying to grab trends instead of like sticking to your brand. So I think that's like number 2. And then 3 is quality and consistency. Like if you have a good product, like it's going to sell itself, but you got to make sure that it's consistent. That, you know, I always tell them, like if I'm making a coffee and she's making a coffee, like the customer shouldn't be able to tell that there's a difference, you know? So those are like my top 3.
Did your husband, Derek, since he's in real estate, did he help you find that location?
Yeah. He does all that. Like, I don't know about any of that. Yeah, he has a lot of inside knowledge on that, which is nice.
And from the time you started renting your space, how long did it take for you to open up to the public?
I want to say like 7 to 8 months, because, you know, we found the location, but then like I didn't have a business loan either. So everything was out of pocket. The place that was in there before, it didn't look nothing like what it looks like now. It was a place called Coffee and Crumbs. So it was a coffee shop. So we bought the assets.
Heard of them.
Yeah, we bought the assets, which was like helpful, but I guess it didn't fit. Like,
can you explain what that is? Buying the assets?
Yeah. So you're basically just buying like the, you know, the equipment that the business previous to you has it. I mean, you could keep like the name Coffee and Crumbs if you want, but that wasn't our intention. So really it was, what we paid for was 1, the location, because we wanted that location, and 2, just like what it already came with inside. So we basically just purchased like all the equipment, like all the fridges, pretty much everything. Like it was already set up, which was nice. Even the espresso machine was there. So that was really helpful. Yeah.
Wow, nice. So I want to ask you the same question about money, because I think coming from certain backgrounds, if you don't have like the savings or like the business loan or mom and dad's money, right? Like it's like, where's it going to come from? And opening a business, I think especially in hospitality, where you need a lot of things, a lot of equipment that's really expensive, a lot of licenses. So I'll let you get into that. But from the time you had the idea, what were your next steps?
So my next step, I've had this idea for, I want to say, since my youngest was born. She was born in 2016. It took me years to create a business plan, because that's what we needed to open up the restaurant in order to get our licenses. They needed like a SWOT analysis. I didn't know what that was. I had to Google it. I was at a park one day. I go to this one park in Cranston. I can't remember the name, but that's where like I have my peace of mind. Like I sit there. I like you know, I gathered all of my thoughts, like how I wanted the restaurant to be. The state of Rhode Island, pretty much I'm pretty sure they probably just skimmed through it, to be honest, because there's so many restaurants and like bars or whatever opening up. Yes. So coming up with a business plan, we had to get down to, your what you imagine your profits are going to be, down to how much you think you're going to make, or how you have to actually show your menu, your prices, your hours. There's a lot of steps into creating the business plan in order to show that to the state of Rhode Island. That way they can give you the licenses. Aside from that, I opened up a restaurant and, the cafe as well. Well, I'm sorry, Andrea opened the cafe. But you have to be certified in food safety. I failed that food safety, I want to say twice. And the third time it was like, you know what, the things that I studied. Are you taking
like a test? You have to take a test?
They make you take a test. Okay. So, but I'm there. I forgot how it was, how many days I was there. But at the end of the week, we would take a test. And 2 times I had failed. And the third time, because they actually change up the test every time. So you can't you can't, yeah. It's a whole process. And then with the town of North Providence, you have to get a trade name. In order to get a trade name, you have to be you actually have to, oh my God, there's just so many steps to it, pretty much. So it took me 6 months to open, but the thing that really probably challenged me the most was just getting food safety, because I felt like the test was so hard. And by hearing it from other people, they actually had you do it online, and I didn't know that. So I was just taking the courses in person. Okay. And every time we would take the test, it would just be a different question, and they would just reword it, and I would just get confused. But the third time, that's when I passed, and it's, yeah. Oh my God, I just got tongue-tied. Don't mind me, guys.
It's okay.
So
she's been working. She has to get back to work.
Yes, I've been up since 3 a.m.
So 6 months, how are you paying for this?
Everything was all out of pocket, to be honest. I did not get a business loan. I didn't know how to get a business loan because my credit wasn't good. In order to get a business loan, I know a few of my people that I've worked with, they actually did it through, what's it called? The credit unions. That's how some people did get approved, but everything was just all out of pocket. And I went from a small restaurant to expanding last year. So now my rent is actually tripled the price. You know what I mean? So not only that the rent is something that I have to maintain, I also have to maintain the utilities, the HVAC system, because I have a new landlord now. So, my employees, the pay, the food, it's just, supplies in the inventory. It's a lot to deal with. And now that we expanded, we require more inventory. You know what I mean? So there has been times when I felt like I just wanted to give up and I just didn't want to do it anymore. But if I stop now, how am I going to provide for my kids? I don't want to go back to 9 to 5. But even when I was working 9 to 5, it's not the same. But I work more than 9 to 5 right now. So
yeah. Oh yeah, you put in way more hours when it's your business.
Exactly.
If you don't mind me asking, and this is for both of you, how much did you have saved where you felt like, okay, I'm ready to go?
So I've always had a good paying job. Throughout the years that I've changed my careers. I traveled a lot for work as well. So I want to say, oh my gosh, I want to say a little over 100. But how she was explaining how she bought the cafe and it already had stuff in it. The restaurant that was there prior was a sushi and I think hibachi. So they already had the kitchen equipment in the back, but that's all they had. So everything we had to, clean up and take out the sushi bar because we wasn't going to sell sushi. So the thing is that the really expensive equipment in the restaurant, if we didn't have it, is the hood for the kitchen, all the appliances, the fridges, and everything all has to be up to date and where it is, only because the health department comes and check you. So say if you have a sink that's near, that's not where it's supposed to be, they will make you change that before they actually, approve your health your health licenses and all that. So it's a lot of work. So before we opened as well, we had to get that verified in the fire department. All of the extinguishers had to be up to date. The fire alarms. It was a lot of process.
Okay, and how about you, Andrea?
I'm gonna add to like what she's saying. So with the health department, that's like a whole other thing, right? Because the food safety management, it was difficult, but it wasn't like, I mean, I like barely passed it, girl. Like I was like right there, but you have to do it or else you can't get the license. But with the health department, it could just be one thing, you know, like your whole restaurant could be up to par. And then I remember for us, like there was no sink in the front. And, you know, I kept asking the health department, well, then how did the restaurant before me get approved with this setup if, you know, you're giving me such a hard time? And so you're honestly like, it's like, it depends who shows up, you know, like someone may give you like a tougher time. And so I remember that, like, then it was like, oh, you have to add a sink here. You have to like fix this tile here. You have to fix there. And they don't like come back the next day. Like it's a, hey, get this done. Like we'll come back in 2 weeks. So every single time that there's like something that you have to fix, it delays your opening. And so I do remember at one point my husband was like, we just need to open, like, you know, because it's like time is like now you're paying rent for a place that isn't bringing in sales. You're spending all this money, like buying all this stuff, you know, to the point where it was just like, if we don't open, like it's gonna be a struggle because the money's just going out. I think like roughly like around what she said, I don't have like a specific number, but I would say like minimum starting is like 100 to 150 if you're like looking at like hard money that you just straight up need to open it. So and that's like not including the small fees. Like when she's talking about going to the state of Rhode Island and getting all your licenses, it's $250 here, $50 there, $95 there. Like I just got like a random license renewed and they were like, hey, $250. Like my accountant just sent me a text, hey, you got to file these taxes, $410. I was like, for what? She's like, oh, it's a processing fee, you know? So it's just like, there's so many different like small moving components when you're doing a business that like, you know, sometimes we'll do great sales and like my employees will be like, yeah, we had like a, you know, a great day. And I'm like, yeah, like minus all the extra employees that we had to bring in, minus all the extra milks that we had to buy, minus like the extra order of like all the syrups that we had to bring in. So like revenue goes up, but so do expenses, you know, and it's like, it's a tough time that we're living into, I think. And, you know, sometimes like I've gotten complaints like, oh, your prices are high. And I'm like, well, I have to make something
Everything
out of what
is
we're
expensive.
doing. You know, like everything is expensive. And we haven't been to the point where like at this time where things are so high, like we haven't raised our prices. But I've seen a lot of restaurants and a lot of coffee shops raise their prices, you know, so I think people got to give restaurants a break sometimes because they're just trying to make it happen, you know, especially like small businesses and there's so many moving factors. Like if people knew we actually run all electrical because there was never like any other sort of installation. So like my light bill is through the roof, you know, like people don't even want to know what that light bill is. So it's kind of like, there's a lot of moving parts to it.
Very expensive. And so
I actually have a question for you.
yeah, sure.
For Andrea. So when did you know, so you know about the sales tax every month? When did you notice that? Because I was very blindsided. So a few months into opening up the restaurant, let me just clear up. Yeah, girl, I didn't realize that having a restaurant, I'd have to pay taxes every month of my sales. So that is sales, meals, and beverages taxes. Once I went to renew my license, I couldn't renew it because I had owed taxes. I'm like, what do you mean I owe taxes? I reached out to my accountant and she's like, oh yeah, you owe such and such. And I'm like, from what? So I had reached out to my old boss that I worked at. He's like, yeah, you have to pay your sales tax and meals and beverages every month. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, why didn't I know about this? So in order for me to renew my licenses, I had to clear out that girl. I was just like, and
they don't tell you everything.
No,
they just like, here's your business, go run it. Yeah,
exactly.
To the point where it was like,
really bad.
To give me $50,000 or like
Wow. They just let it add up. They don't want to say anything
Pretty much,
before
yeah.
that. Did you have, it sound like you were able to reach out to someone that you worked for previously. Do you have a lot of people like that, like mentors?
Yeah. So previously I worked at a bar that in Providence, and he was a cool boss. He would always give me advice. So I actually had two bosses. One was very nice, one not really. But the one that was very nice, he actually, was very positive about me opening up a restaurant, because I had left him. I had left his restaurant bar, and went out on my own. And he told me, like, this is how it's gonna be, such and such. But the things that he forgot to tell me about the sales tax. So once I reached out, he's like, oh yeah, like you have to pay that every month. And it's literally due before the 19th of every month. Or I think the 20th, I can't remember. My accountant handles that, whatever date that is. Yeah.
I think it's like the middle of the
right?
month. Yeah, I think every business has to pay that. And yeah, same, didn't know.
To that. So we didn't know that either. And I think I actually made it a big thing with like our POS system. So I have Toast at our restaurant, and they always have like someone that kind of like just guides you through like everything, that all the moving parts. And I was just like, so you guys have been depositing this sales tax. Like, I honestly had the idea, and these are things that like you don't learn in like a college room setting, right? Like no one's going to explain this to you. But I was like, the sales tax, like you guys have been depositing that to our account every single time. And they were like, yep. So pretty much like, and that could be anywhere from like $2,000 to $10,000 a month, like is what an average, like I would say like regular small business can pay. And long story short, a year in, they were like, you need to pretty much like pay this up front if you want to continue running your business. So it's when you come from a place that like you know all the ins and outs of a restaurant, but you don't know the ins and outs of like the actual administrative part of it. Like that's not something you learn in school. It's just not, so, and similar to you, I used to work for the owners of actually like Brass Monkey, Black Sheep, Sport and Leisure. I don't know if, so I used to bartend, and serve with them for a really long time. Also from Dolores, like he helped me a lot with the mixology portion of it and just like syrups and flavors. So again, had the knowledge on like how to do it, but the back end stuff is definitely something that like you can struggle on.
Yeah. And I think anyone can own a business, and there's so many businesses you can have, but with hospitality, food, drink, like I think it's just so many more levels of complexity to it. That I don't have to, that I don't know about, because I don't deal with it with the retail in this space. But so it's good to get like that insight and realize how much it is.
So question, since you have this event space, do you still pay for your tax, or is that different?
No, so we have to pay sales tax as well.
Okay.
Since
Because
we have a retail shop.
Okay.
So we collect taxes when we sell things. So we have to pay that to the state. Yeah.
And Rhode Island tax situation.
Yes.
If you could do one thing differently when you started your business, what would that be?
A lot.
Pick one.
I want to say, let me see, for myself, I'd say like if I had to change something, my mindset, only because there were times when I felt like I just wanted to give up, but like I said, I've always been like a positive person. There were like negative moments where I'm like, oh, I want to give up, but I mean, everyone goes through ups and downs. You know what I mean? Especially in this restaurant industry, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, and I learned as I went. Like, I mean, you learn as you go, pretty much. So everything that I know now till this day, I had to learn on my own and ask people around me, whoever I worked around, just ask them questions. But, there are sometimes people that are going to give you negative energy and like, oh yeah, like you're not going to make it. I did get that from my old boss. He's like, oh, well, you're in North Providence. So I now have a bar at the restaurant with my liquor license. I did it in the beginning. It was a BYOB restaurant. And because I was a BYOB restaurant because I was less than 200 feet away from a school. So in order for me to apply for my liquor license, I had to file a variance. And the state representative of North Providence happened to be the guy that I hosted his 50th birthday.
Oh.
So, and he remembered me because I hosted his 50th birthday and I had lost my key that night. So I host weddings and events like that. And that one night I had misplaced my key and I couldn't find it. And he happened to also own Providence Auto Body. I can't remember the name. Oh my God.
That's probably the name. That sounds familiar.
So he bought me a new key, towed my car, like he did everything. And then he's like, oh, I remember you. I still have the voicemail that he left me. He said, okay, let's meet up at Dunkin' Donuts. I met him at Dunkin' Donuts along with the head of the state, the reps of North Providence met at Dunkin' Donuts, and they were like, oh, let's, apply for your license. No one's going to go against you. So in order for me to get my liquor license, I had to file a variance, also send out letters to houses that were 200 feet away from the restaurant. And then once I went in front of the board, luckily nobody...
Because they can object, they can say no, we don't want you to have this.
So it was a whole process to go through that. So like I said, we learn as we go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's see. When you were working on your business, obviously this is something that takes employees and other people. It's not something you can just run by yourself. What was that experience like, having to manage other people in a workspace?
So I actually didn't for a little bit. So I was going to say, what you asked her about, what is something you would have done differently? I probably would have hired more people, but in the beginning, obviously, you don't have the financials to be, people are depending on you, if you're offering them a job. So you can't just hire a whole bunch of people and then not have the revenue to pay all these people.
So was it just you and your family working in the beginning?
Me, my husband, my mom, and then one other kid. And then shortly after, Liz. So it was just every day. And I think that, in the beginning, it was so tough because I was so burnt out because I was there every single day. I can't believe it but to the point in terms of working the having those conversations every day where I couldn't do the back end moving parts, right? The things that you want to over, how do I say it? Supervise and make sure everything else is running smoothly. I couldn't because I was tied down to a register all day, or I was tied down to, strictly making coffee. So, I think maybe you can agree, it's nice when you have the opportunity, you can oversee all things and make sure everything's going well and dip your hands where you can. But in the beginning, it was I had to just stick to one thing. So I think that was really tough. To be honest, managing people is probably one of the hardest things that has happened in the business because we have our quality in food, we have our branding, all that, is kind of figured out and it just happens, but you can only manage people to a certain extent, right? Things are going to happen in restaurants. And I think that sometimes restaurants don't get enough grace. We're also people and people make mistakes. There's so many times where, someone can say something negative, about one of my employees, and I know the customer, right, in restaurant world is always right, but you also know, I have certain employees that I'm I got their back no matter what, and so sometimes it's to see a negative review on an employee or their performance when they really are a great employee and maybe they made a mistake, I just think sometimes in the restaurant world, people are so tough and rough on people, but you can only control things, to a certain extent. I can't control if someone makes a mistake on a sandwich. It's just the nature of a business, and you'd be surprised with the kind of feedback that you can get sometimes, or how much someone will try to tear your business down with again, a mistake that someone made that you can't really, you have no control over the situation. So.
How about you, Victoria? Are you the manager, the overseer, kind of?
So I'm a little bit of everything. In the beginning, so we had family, like close friends helping me out.
And that's not easy either, because
No, it's-
telling your mom especially, or someone else, how to do something isn't always the easiest
Speaking with my mom
conversation.
is very hard because we clash a lot, but there are days when we do get along. She does handle the back end, but when we are short staffed like today, I would actually jump in, but she's actually not cross-trained in the front aside from takeout. So if we have a server that's out, I would actually have to, serve and bartend. Like right now, I have my daughter at the restaurant. She can't make drinks, so she's there doing takeouts. And if that's the case, if it comes down to someone wanting a drink, they'll close the bar, and that's one thing that I hate, because sometimes we sell a lot of drinks there. People, sometimes they want to have a glass of wine with their food, and my daughter's still underage. She just turned 17. So it's hard to have just her working. But in the beginning, like I said, I had my friends and family, my close friends and family helping me. Till this day, I still have my close friends and family helping me. I find that it's hard for me to trust someone that I don't know, but I know eventually I'll get there, because I have to learn how to let go when I'm not there. My boyfriend and I, we just came back from Hawaii for my birthday, and the whole time I was checking the cameras, and so in Hawaii we were 6 hours behind. So I'm constantly waking up in the middle of the night, just checking the cameras, texting everyone oh, is everything fine? So Paola, my best friend, she actually was handling they were busy Valentine's Day. She was going crazy, handling the bar. Also, we sell hookah. So, it's a little bit of everything that everyone is cross-trained in. It's a lot of work for one person. So I just recently stepped away from my marketing, field, only because it was just a lot. I also I couldn't keep up with running the restaurant and also doing the marketing. So we now have a marketing team that deals with the PVD content. They are very, very good with, whatever I needed. If I needed something to be posted, they'll help me. Very good at that. They really make really good videos, and they're such nice people. So that's one thing that's off my hands. But till this day, I still have a little bit of anxiety, just leaving my restaurant, because that's my little baby, you know what I mean? So I'm constantly always checking the cameras. I have cameras in every angle. It's crazy. But yeah, even till right now, I'm still checking the cameras. So,
It's called standard of operation? Is that how? So if you were to train someone, this is the manual you would give, so everyone's giving the same service, everyone knows the same thing. Is that the word for it? Is there? What do you call it? Okay. Yeah, and I feel so right now it's just me and my partner running the business. Mm-hmm. We manage artist studios right next door, so sometimes they'll volunteer and help us out when we can't be here, but we realize that it takes so much to remember things that you have to write down, or let your employees know hey, this is something that we do here, and so I find that really difficult. So it's nice to get some insight on people who have to manage teams.
how long did it take you to open up?
We opened up. We opened quickly. I think we had the idea. We were doing a lot of pop-ups in markets and things like that as artists who create things and who do things. And my partner's a performer. We signed a lease maybe July, and then we opened in September. So we only took 2 months to open.
Oh yes, I remember now, because I was I want to give them food.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. So you've donated food for one of our openings when we had an art gallery opening. And when we ask for donations for our openings, we ask for a couple bites, nothing more, for 25 people. She came with trays, and when I went to go pick up the food, she's like, "Hold on, I have more." Yeah. And she came with the skewers and the I think it was nim chow, or some sort of rolls, and so much food. We all took it home, and that was really nice and kind of you. The support. So yeah, it took us a really short time to open, but it's the nature of the business. So it's, again, different from our industry. So there's a lot of questions that I have around the food industry, which sounds way more complex.
It is.
All right, so I want to start talking about you both are over 2 years in of your business. I know it probably still feels really brand new and you're still learning. At least that's how I feel. So Andrea, what excites you these days? What's like the passion part of your business? Like, why do you do it?
So for me, I think that ever since we first opened, the number one thing that was always on our mind was that there was a need for that in like the coffee space. So there wasn't any like specialty Latin coffee shop when we opened Cafe Ava. And we always travel to like Miami and Florida, and like there's so much of that over there, but there really wasn't anything like that in Rhode Island. So I think that is the moving component for me all the time, because a lot of times I think that, as a minority or as a Latina, like we tend to just keep our businesses to like our own people, right? And so there's such a big like educational moment where you can showcase your culture and what you eat to people of other cultures, but they're not exposed to that unless you do the work, So I think that like sometimes people are like, oh, like why didn't you open in like this area? And I'm like, this was the area that it was needed, like there's so much diversity in Cranston, but there really wasn't like a coffee shop that people could call home in that area, which was like really important for me. And I think that that's like just our moving thing every day, because I actually just did like an interview with PBD Monthly yesterday, so I feel like I'm repeating myself, but every single drink that comes out or every single sandwich, like it's all with intention and it's all like tied back to our roots, like, and there's nothing wrong with, it's just like, this is how we do things. Like people will be like, oh, like what drink special are you doing for St. Patrick's Day? And I'm like, I'm not doing a drink special because it has nothing to do with my, and it's just that everything is like deeply rooted, like every single syrup, every single flavor, like we have tres leches latte, like a flan latte.
Which is really popular. It seems like everybody's talking about the tres leches latte.
Yeah, it's our best seller. But like all of that is like, even like our caramel, it's not like just a dulce de leche latte, like how people call it. It's a cajeta, it's a burnt caramel. It's strictly used in Mexican culture. So like just every single moving part, like it somehow has to do with our culture, which I think is really important. And like in the beginning, when we first opened, I remember getting like, I don't want to say pushback, like people would be like, oh, well, why don't you serve English muffins? It's like, because I didn't grow up eating English muffins, and there's nothing wrong with English muffins, but there's a coffee shop down the street that has English muffins if that's what you like, and so I think that just like sticking to that, like that power of like, well, this is what my culture has to offer, and you can come here if that's what you're looking for. That's just like our moving force every day, for sure.
I believe I read somewhere that you had, which I thought was such a great point, and I never thought about it like that before, but you opened in that location, like you said, because some people might not be comfortable coming to like Providence or Broad Street or like wherever those places are.
Yeah.
You wanted to bring it to them in a more like, in a different environment, right, in Cranston.
And I say that with like, obviously like not, not in a bad way, but it's just like there's a lot of people that don't know like where to go on Broad Street, like don't like how are in. So I feel like sometimes us as minorities, like I don't even want to say like we're shy, but we're scared to like to branch out and like like this is what we have. And I think that people don't have access to what we have to offer. So I think that like showing that there is a sophisticated side to our culture, and like we can provide that, like, I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say, but like, you don't have to just like, for lack of a better term, like go to the hood to find us, like that it shouldn't be the case, because like, just like her, just like me, like we belong in this space too, And so I think that was like one of the main reasons for me. I'm like, well, how will people know and they know like every single person that comes in, like, they are not going to know what an arepa is, like they're not Hispanic, they're not Latino, they've never been to Venezuela or Colombia. So it is your duty and your job to explain to someone that doesn't know what that is, what it is, because guess what? They love it. They don't know about it, And so I think it's our job to not just like circle in and keep our culture to us if we want that respect from others as well.
Yeah. And your cafe isn't just Guatemalan or Dominican. It's all like the menu items
There's
cater
like
to like so many
different like countries that come about, because we're all one, you know. Like I feel like sometimes when people are like Guatemalan, it's like it's a Guatemalan coffee shop or it's a Dominican coffee shop, and it's like there's
very narrow.
Our cultures intertwine, you know, they really do. So I think that also is a important part.
So Victoria, I want to ask you, what keeps you up at night these days, whether it's something you're excited about or something you're worried about? What's always on your mind?
Everything that has to deal with the restaurant. I do think a lot about the restaurant. What, like, you know, sometimes I want to have specials. In the beginning, there's so many Thai restaurants in Rhode Island, and no one knows about Lao food. So when people come here, they're like, oh, what's the difference between Lao food and Thai food? And I would always tell them it's the spice level. You know, the spice level, and sometimes when people check out, you know, other Thai restaurants in Rhode Island, it's very Americanized. So everything we do here at the restaurant, my mother's, so her recipes, my recipes, we combine them together, and we cook like we're at home, pretty much, you know. So when people try our food, that's something I'm always thinking about, like, oh, like what should we do different? Like on the weekends, we used to always do specials, but now it's just like, lately, since we expanded, we've been getting a lot of event bookings. So every Saturday, it's always events, and it's good. Yes, it's good, but also sometimes I'm always having like ideas in my head, but I can never always like push them out, only because, you know, there's always something coming up, or I don't have enough staff, or like, you know, my front of the house or my back of the house. Like I'm not, I find myself stuck in a rut because the things I want to do, I don't have the manpower for it. I don't have the manpower for it. And I know that I should hire more, but like you said, it's about the revenue. You know, like if I hire someone and we don't make anything that day, what am I I have to come out of my own pocket to pay them, you know? So I'm always thinking like, oh, what can I do to make the restaurant, you know, like just, I'm always thinking of something, but I feel like I don't know, like I have all these ideas, but I just can't push them out because I don't have the manpower. And I know I should hire more, but like I said, some days it's a hit or miss. Like, we're closed Mondays, but sometimes on Tuesdays we're busy. Sometimes we're not. Like these past 2 days have been very busy for dinner. Takeouts is always busy for us, always busy. Sometimes we get no dine-ins at all. And it's just like, oh, we made 500 in sales. Like, what am I going to do? I only have that 500 to pay the kitchen staff. So now what about my front of the house? You know what I mean? Right. So it's always like, I have all these ideas. I just can't push them out sometimes. So
I think we're creatives, we're artists, right? But I think any business owner, you have to be creative because you're doing so many things.
Yes.
And I think something that I didn't realize that I'm learning like in real time is that you don't get to do the one part that you really like doing, like all the ideas you have to spread yourself so thin that sometimes that stuff takes the back burner because you're opening tomorrow. You need people there tomorrow. You need employees to be there. You need to have, you know, the food and the drinks ready just for whoever may come in. So that stuff, like, and it piles up. It could be like months later, years, where you don't like actually get to do those things that you have in your head.
No, and not only that, my mom and I, my brother, my boyfriend, we would go out and get our own inventory instead of going through a distributor. You know what I mean? But now since we have expanded, we order once a month, but it's also hard because of the storage space that we have. So the fridge space, everything is just like we have to, what's that word? Like you have to, oh my God, what's that word?
Improvise?
Not improvise, but like you have to pretty much use what we have, and then if we need it, we'll go out and get more. I can't think of the word. I can't think of the words. But yes, so it was
restock. No. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No. It's okay. So it's just a lot for one person to handle, especially my mom. My mom does not take any days off. Mondays we're closed, and that lady is up at the grocery store buying stuff. So just little things that we need. but it's a lot. So now that we deal with a distributor, we order with them once a month. So yeah.
Where can I ask where you're ethnically from? Because I know you serve different types of cuisine.
So my mother is from Thailand and my dad's from Laos, so they're right next door to each other.
Yep. Okay.
So Laos is a landlocked country in between Thailand and Cambodia. Yes.
And before we go back to Andrea, sorry, I always want to say Andrea but Andrea.
Yeah.
You mentioned the events, and I feel like that's what I see a lot of recently.
Yes.
Did you, and it's huge. I mean, your new space, I remember when I first went, you just had like the one space, and there were maybe a couple tables.
I think we had like 4 or 5 tables, to be honest.
And did you take the 2 businesses next to you, or was it just one?
Yes. So when we expanded, the space that we took over was 2 units, and that was a whole salon. So once we changed landlords, we broke down the wall and then we just expanded. So the bar where our bar is now used to be 2 rooms, and that's why it's such a huge bar, because we kept
like the outline
of it. That way, the base of it. So then my dad and my uncle, they built the bar for me, and that's why it's so huge. So every time when someone comes in, they're like, "Oh, why didn't you make the bar smaller so there's more space?" I'm like, because we kept the base of it. So
for those events, is that something you're coming up with? Is that on your end, or are people just coming to you?
So aside from, when I work with promoters, they do take a percentage. So I try to stay away from that, and also the crowd base. So I pick and choose who I work with, only because I don't want to bring that into North Providence, because we're around, surrounding homes and
in a school.
So I don't want to bring like a ratchet crowd near us. And, the thing is that the noise, so what's that word? The noise in North Providence, if you're making a lot of noise past 9 p.m., they'll call the cops on you. That's what had happened to us one time when we had an event. We had a tent outside, but there was no one outside. It was just the noise. So, the neighbors were calling. And it was a Friday night. So we had like, I want to say 8 cruisers outside, and 8 cruisers outside. I still have the footages.
Excessive.
And I felt like they were coming for me. Like I didn't know what I was doing. So when they asked, "Oh, like who's the owner?" But I was working behind the bar, so I don't look like an owner. I just look like I'm a regular bartender behind the bar. So when they're like, "Oh, do you have your license for liquor or hookah?" I'm like, "Yes, they're all right here." I literally have it behind the bar. They have to be on display, yeah. So they're like, oh, "Okay, can we take your name and stuff down?" I'm like, "Yeah, go right ahead." They're like, oh, "Okay, we're gonna report this to town hall." I'm like, "Go right ahead." So but ever since they came for me one time, and then after that, maybe a year after, but that was it. But maybe because I'm a minority as well in that area, and I'm the only restaurant on that road. So, and we do. I didn't plan to have a lot of events at the restaurant, but it just happened. Like people loved the space, and then people just kept wanting to book with us, wanting to work with us. But I tried to end the events by like 10, 12 a.m. ish, or like a little bit before 12, because I don't want to make too much noise. Just to, keep the peace in between like the neighborhoods and stuff.
And I just have to comment on that too, because you're both young, you're both women of color, and for someone to walk in and say like, "Who's the manager?" or I want to talk to a manager, for that to be you. Have you had that moment where someone's like, "I need to talk to someone"?
All the time.
So Andrea, so I see you've did some collab with like other local coffee shops, right? Is that right? Where
I did like a giveaway.
Okay, yeah. So how is it working with people in your industry or in your area? Like, do you have that type of relationship with people who have businesses?
So I do have relationship with like a lot of different like restaurant owners. Like I try to show support in that way with just people that I know, are doing the same thing as me, just trying to figure it out. And, at the end of the day, like it really, like, I don't look at people as other businesses. Like, I'm like, these are just families, like trying to provide for their, family.
That smoke screen comes down where you're like, oh, like, I know what this
we're
is
the
about.
same thing. Yeah. Like, even like the things that, she's saying, I'm like, oh, like I go, not the cops, but, like similar, the feelings like, oh, like, sales are up, but I gotta hire more people, all that, but with coffee shops, I really enjoy like the craft of coffee, and so I can't say that there's a whole ton that I feel that way about, but there's definitely like the people that I did the giveaway with, like I just know that they really do put like their best effort, and I really do think like I don't know if you guys know Ceremony PVD, like they're like known for their matcha. We actually have their matcha at my location now, but like they truly have the best matcha in Rhode Island, like they do, you know. And I've had personal conversations with the owner, like there, you know, she's home with her kids right now. Like she actually texted me about something right now. And so, you know, there are people that, you know, I truly do admire. There's some that I look at from afar, like you guys know, I'm sure you guys know about Nitro Bar. Like I don't have a relationship with her. I don't know the girl, but you know, I admire people like that really like, you know, work their way from down low all the way up. So.
And you are, I mean, so I do want to say this too, like things look different on social media than what they are in real life, right? Yeah. But it does look like you're very busy, very popular. A lot of people seem to be coming to the cafe. Is there anything you do marketing wise to like make sure you're getting new customers and new people coming into the door?
I think we always try to stay present. I have Liz that, you know, she helps me a lot in the marketing aspect. And so we really just, I don't want to say like stay on top of trends, but just stay on top of representing who we are consistently on social media. I've had a lot of people like try to come in and run our social media accounts, but, you know, sometimes I don't feel like they truly capture the essence if they're not there day in and day out. So that's why it's been like a really nice kind of straying away from and I don't want to say that I don't work, but like I've had less shifts actually like physically doing things there, right? But like I'm working every single day. Like I'm on my computer every single day. I'm at the coffee shop every single day. Maybe not from 7 to 3 p.m. when everyone's seeing me, right? But then like I'm always there at 3. I'm at home. Like I'm playing Barbies with my daughter and I'm doing payroll at 10 p.m. So there's just so many different moving components that, you know, you're clocked in every single day in just different ways. Like me and Liz are always like, you know, trying to find different ways to market on TikTok. Like there's so much power in marketing, and I think that it can truly benefit like so many businesses, but you have to give it time and you have to nurture it. So. Yeah.
And you just had that Cafecito Social Club event, right?
Yeah.
Was that like a day type gathering with just drinking coffee?
Yeah. So it's been really popular in like LA, New York, Miami. And it was something I really wanted to bring here. It was funny, we were talking about this, like she was like, I have so many ideas. And it's like, I've had that idea for, I want to say about a year. Like, I don't remember how long we've had that idea for, but there was never like the momentum to execute it because like, who's going to run it? Who's going to work it? Like, am I going to be busy? And like that whole week leading up to that and like, just speaking at this, and like I spoke at Johnson & Wales last week, I was like so overwhelmed. I was like, I'm not physically working at the cafe, but like it's, you know, you asked her like, what's keeping you up at night? Like there's just so many places that I'm getting like moved around to that it's a lot, you know, it's a lot of like mental pressure too, because you know, I'm not making coffees, but like, I need to represent my brand in the best way possible too, you know? So that, you know, we finally made it happen, and we were just like, I found a DJ and I was like, let's set a date, and we try to figure out, she helped me with the flyer, and you know, it was like little things that you look at it and I'm like, oh my God, I was stressing over like a vase and like the flowers I was gonna get for this, but the details, but they're so important and there's so many parts to it. So I think it's been just like a breath of fresh air, like finally being able to do the projects that I want to do and like where I see Cafe Ava's potential like for the future.
And I see that, or I've read that you also want to maybe, who knows when, but maybe expand into having a bar, having more locations. How close does that feel, or does it just feel more distant? I know, right?
I've been working at just like full transparency on either having a new location or adding, like, again, I've always had like the love for the mixology and the syrups. Like I know how to make drinks, you know, so like there's no like learning aspect to that, but we have been trying to work on this. I want to say since maybe September, October of last year. I was actually in, I don't know the actual term, my husband would if he was here, but it was kind of like a contract basically to finally get a space. And the person, you know, kind of had me in lingo. Like, first they wanted to sell me the building, which I was excited about because, you know, that would be like a stepping stone. Like, I wouldn't have to pay rent, and I was really excited over that. Then they couldn't do that, and they wanted to rent. So, you know, it kind of was like, okay, like, is that where I want to shift my focus now? Like, do we want to go back to that? Do we have the funds for that? So we were like, yes, whatever. We really want that location. We're going to do that. Then they moved back to, okay, no, I want to sell it. And it's like, it's like a lot of money, you know, like, it's not like, where do I pull that out from? And obviously, like, you know, now we're in a place where, like, you know, you can apply, because you can't always apply for a loan. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to go apply for a loan, right? Like, you have to show your tax information. Like, what are your sales? Like, what has your business been doing for the past 2 years that we can give you this big chunk of money? So currently working on that. There's another location that popped up that I also want, but it's already my landlord that I have right now, and he's kind of not really, I would say, being fair to me in terms of, like, you know, kind of giving someone else like a little bit of space too, when it's like you have a tenant that's been paying you rent firmly, that your check has never bounced for 2 years. So it seems close. Like, I think once the space is locked down, like, I could probably open it in maybe like 4 or 5 months, based on what I want to do and like the knowledge that we have now from opening the first one. But I'll keep you guys posted when I figure it out.
I know it's not an easy question. No. So Victoria, what has been like a really valuable lesson that you've learned?
A valuable lesson.
Yeah.
I want to say, I think just appreciating the work that I've, you know, with my employees, my staff. They're very, not only valuable to me, but like they also help me a lot. I wouldn't be where I am without them today. You know, they're my close friends, my family. Each day is something different that I learn. Literally, it's something different every day. Like with the whole landlord situation, I've been back and forth with my landlord, but with the property manager. So they have someone that deals with them, and they own a lot of, you know, a lot of location properties. Yeah. And I came recently. I went through my lease, and I'm like, oh, I missed this part. So I'm like, okay, I should have read it more, but I was so eager to open up, you know, expand. And I feel like they got in my head because they're like, oh, we have someone. And I felt like they actually sent someone to be like, oh yeah, how,
like, who might take it if you didn't,
you know what I mean? So it was just like, I wish I would have just breathe, like took more time and also, you know, breathe and just actually like looked at my lease, because when I looked at it recently, I'm like, oh, I wish I never signed that lease yet. You know what I mean? So that was something like a valuable lesson for me. I'm like, I should have just took my time, had my lawyer look at it, but they got in my head. You know what I mean? I wanted the space so bad because I had a small location and I had ideas for when I expanded. I just wanted to hurry up and expand, but we were closed down for like maybe I want to say 3-4 months until I actually expanded. So I should just took my time.
What's your lease? What are the terms? Is it like a 5 or a 10 year?
So in the beginning for our small location, when I first had it, it was a 3-year lease. And then once we expanded, they actually wanted me to do another 3-year lease. But I had come into terms with them, like, I want a 5-year lease if, you know, you do this and that for me, which it was on the lease. But there was one thing that I didn't look at, which was my HVAC system. So before our HVAC system, our previous landlord, he would take care of everything. Like, say if the heaters and stuff are down, they handled everything. But now with the new landlord, everything's all on me. And that's one thing that I miss. And dealing with HVAC is actually a lot of money. And it's not my building. That's the thing. I'm leasing it. So I'm like, now I'm paying
investing into someone else's property.
Yes, exactly. So after
my landlord actually wants me to in the new place that I want, he wants me to install the HVAC system.
Yes.
Like if no one knows, like that's like 20 grand.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So right now, our HVAC system's like on and off. So it's just like now right now I have someone coming out this weekend. Like our heat is like on and off. Like it works, but there are times when it just doesn't kick up, you know what I mean? And so I'm coming out of pocket for that, and my landlord is just like, oh yeah, he came and pick up. He sent one of his people to pick up the our rent the other day, and it was just like pick up the check and leave. And and every time we would address the situation to him, no answer, nothing, and it's just like, I wish I had my old landlord back.
So did someone buy that building? Like
no,
that?
so it's still. Oh yeah, someone did buy it. It's actually his one of his GMs, the previous landlords. So now, like, you know, my mom and I were discussing like, oh, we're investing in a new HVAC system, and then actually, you know, we have maybe 4 more years left of our lease until we decide if we want to renew. That's going to be all theirs. The whole heating system on the roof, everything is all on us. Like, that's what we paid for.
Yeah.
And it's not our building. So
sneaky.
I know.
Wow.
So that's one thing like I didn't look at when I signed the lease, and I regret that to this day.
Wow.
That's how they play you.
Yeah.
They rush you into signing the lease. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna get this and this done. Like, yeah.
It reminds me a lot of like people who rent apartments too, right? Like they just want to give the space to someone, but you have to fix everything that's in there. And yeah, there's slumlords both in commercial and business, and residential. Not calling that person a slumlord, but yeah, sometimes they try to put off as many costs as they can. So wrapping up, I just wanted to ask you both the same question. So we'll start with you since you have the mic. If it's your day off, what's something that you're doing?
I just recently got
day off because I know what that means.
So
the business is closed. I should say that
the business is closed. So I start my day 3 a.m. I text the girls every day, but no one answers me. It's either to go running or to the gym. So I just actually started running about last July. So that's something where like it helps me like, you know, clear my mind. So if I'm actually not working, I'm still working, to be honest. I'm just going to keep it real. Like I'm still always working. But I do like find myself like, oh, I feel like maybe I have ADHD. I don't know. But like I can focus on one thing and then change it to doing something else.
Yeah.
So that's me. Like my mind's always moving.
I think just because there's so many things on your mind, it's hard to organize. And yeah, no, that's.
And sometimes like when I feel like I don't maybe get enough sleep, but I can't sleep for a long period of time. But if I'm really tired, yes. But I start my day at 3 a.m. Gym. Sometimes I run. Drop off my kids early in the morning, and then I plan a schedule for myself, or sometimes I'll try to relax. But like I said, at the end of the day, I'm still thinking about the restaurant. Like, what can I do differently?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
What time are you going to sleep if you're waking up at 3?
I want to say maybe 11 o'clock.
Wow.
Sometimes a little bit before that.
Not
like
enough,
10,
right?
No, it's not enough. But my alarm is set for 3:30. And then the gym opens up at 4 a.m. I get there.
You're up before them. Okay, and then last question. Any small businesses that you enjoy going to or that you appreciate, whether you know the owner or not, but since we're talking about small businesses?
Yes. So growing up, actually, so around the Asian community, there's not there's not a lot of support in the Asian community. Well, from what I've been through. But I'm a very supportive person. Like if I have a customer come in, they're like, oh, well, we try such and such. I'm like, oh yes, I used to work there, or this dish is really good. I will recommend them. I'm a very humble person. I would still support whatever restaurant that's around me. I don't really go out as much anymore, but when I did, I would just, show my old boss support by just showing up, or any cafes. I've been to her cafe plenty of times. So
did you know each other at all?
No,
or,
we didn't.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I still show love to a lot of cafes and like the restaurants around the neighborhood.
Okay. All right. And Andrea, what's something you're doing on your day off?
So I really try to just spend time with my daughter like the whole day, because sometimes I feel like, I don't want to say that like I push her away, but like she's just always like at the coffee shop sometimes. So like, you know, sometimes I can't like actually play with her. Like she's just there and she kind of just like adapts to her setting. And so like when it's day off, like it's like I'm playing Barbies. Like we're at the, like yesterday, she was like just so excited to like go to the park. And it's just like simple things, but like when you can like just put down and like not pay attention to anything else but them, it's like really valuable for her. So I think like, you know, just spending time with her, like I try to do it. So like right now she's in school Tuesday, Thursday, Friday only because she's in pre-K. So like those Monday, Wednesdays when she doesn't have school, like I try to not book myself for anything or like put myself in anything so that I am with her, you know, the days that she's off. And then also just like honestly spending time with my mom too. Like I just like take her to stores or wherever she needs to go to. I think it's kind of like our thing, as simple as it is, but I think it like always just like reminds me of like when I was growing up, like we would just go to store, you know what I mean? In New York, like it was just always going to store. So I think it's simple, but that's what I do on my day off.
Nice. And any restaurants, cafes, businesses that you like to go to?
Yeah, I love to. So honestly, I try to like support a lot of the ones that are like in my area because I have a lot of hope for Rolfe Square. I think that like, and my landlord said it to me the other day. So I'm like, okay, so give me the space. But he said I think we brought a lot of value to like just like that Rolfe Square area. And I think it has a lot of potential and it's just like a nice environment for families. And so, you know, there's like a small restaurant. It's called Chicano's. If you guys haven't heard of it, it's right on Rolfe Square. They have like a Mexican sushi fusion kind of thing.
Interesting.
I think they honestly like, they're newer, but they've been around for a little bit. And, you know, I think they do a lot of takeout. So just like going to small businesses around me that, you know, I think, I don't want to say they're struggling, but I know that they don't have like, you know, maybe the movement that like they deserve to have because they honestly have like good food. I like to go to Sonia's. That's like right around the corner from me too. They're really good. And then I really look up to, I don't know if you guys know, you probably do, Dolores in Providence. So the bar manager there, Marco, he's actually the one that like taught me everything about bartending back when I used to work at Black Sheep. So I truly just like admire his family story and like how far they've come from like when they had at Rancho Grande and now to this, you know, and now they're at Track 15, which I went to this week. They have that, they're in there. So
you got to go. It's not even open. Or
no, it's open.
It opened this week.
Girl, I didn't get to go before. It opened on Tuesday.
I thought you were VIP.
I did get invited to go. I couldn't go because I was preparing for the party, the social club on Sunday. So I didn't get to go, but I went when it opened to the public and it's just like, it's really beautiful. So it's just nice to watch like, you know, the people that taught me and mentored me to just see like their business growing too. So
nice. Thank you for those recommendations. I'll give you all a minute if anybody has questions, but is there anything that's on your mind that maybe we didn't ask or that you've been thinking about leading up to this that you want to say? No pressure.
I think we've like chatted away.
Right. Okay. All right. Does anybody who came tonight have any questions for either person or both of them? Hey, Josh. Yeah. What's up?
Hi. How did both of you and Cassie, you can answer this too, but overcome like fear and nerves taking the business like from an idea to like a successful venture that you're both in like a couple of years?
I just think I kind of looked at it like I didn't really have a choice. You know, like it was more so like, did I want to make this something or not? And I think that I was already in a position where I wasn't like, luckily I was blessed to be in a position where I didn't have like an actual job other than like little things I was doing on my own. So I honestly had the time and capacity to be able to commit to that. I think it can be a lot harder for someone that, you know, is working a 9 to 5. I can't imagine working a 9 to 5 and then having to build a business. Cause I was in there every day, you know, like, I don't know if you guys have been, but like the flowers on the wall, like I didn't even know how to do that. Right. And so I'm not artsy at all, like in comparison to you. And so just trying to like figure all those things out and like even putting wallpaper up and all that stuff, it was kind of like, well, either I do it or I don't. And so I think just like that was like the motivating force. Like no one's going to do it for me.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, any fears, or how did you overcome?
I still have fears. I'm
Yeah,
very
it's still
nervous
scary.
still. I'm very nervous. I'm very stage fright, but I feel like in the restaurant business, like my hospitality towards people, like I actually know how to like approach them, you know, make them feel comfortable. But right now, earlier, I was very nervous, so I'm still overcoming a lot of fear. You know what I mean? But like I said, I'm learning as I'm working through it. Yeah, so one step at a time.
Yeah. I think for us, it felt like the right time, and we didn't want to miss it. Even opening a business, you have to keep that steam going. There's always the possibility of having a bad day, having a really bad month, having, going into the negative with financials. So it doesn't stop just when you open your business. It keeps going, but the fear, it was nerve-wracking to try to go ahead and take that step to open up. But I think it was like you didn't want to miss that moment, because what if it didn't come back? Or what if it was never as high? And I think what we were doing in like 2017, 2017 through 2019, actually, it was a couple years. It just felt like it kept building and building, and it just felt like the right moment. So in the same, it's like either you do it or you don't, and you let somebody else do it, to be honest. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, hey, Jenny.
Thank you for doing this. I think this is amazing, and thank you for sharing all of your experience. You mentioned that your family and friends and people that you know that are in the industry help you. Can you name organizations that you looked for information on how to get permits, what you needed?
Like maybe like resources, like if there were any resources?
There were no resources. So there was actually a guy, I don't know like what his exact position was, but there are people that you can pay to like do the process for you. And they did offer their services really early on. I will say that it was extremely expensive, like to have someone take that on. So it was honestly like a trial and error kind of situation, going to, whatever office it was, asking for the paperwork, completing it, them saying, no, you're missing this, or you need this. But it was honestly just like step-on-step process. Like I personally didn't go to any organizations. I think that Rhode Island does have the resources, but sometimes I don't want to say they're not doing a good job, but there's definitely, like, it can be really limiting for certain people to have access to them. Like I remember I was applying for a small business loan, and it was just like, you need this and you need this, and if you don't have that, like you don't qualify, So it's kind of just like you don't even have a chance before you start running sometimes.
And there are grants that they offer, but it's hard because you have to actually write a whole letter, and it's pretty much like a lottery. Yeah. You submit it, and then you wait and see if you get, if they accept you, and then they'll give you this much for the grant, but it's not always like a win-win situation.
Mm-hmm. I think resources that I've encountered or tried to like gain from help you with maybe like that first step, and then it's like you're on your own. Like I remember we needed a lawyer to look over a lease when we were moving into this space. We tripled in size too. We used to just be like this tiny little space, just a couple blocks from here, and then we moved around. But this is like huge for us, and we wanted someone to look at the lease for us because we've never dealt with like this type of commitment. And we went through, I think, RIBA, the Rhode Island Black Business Association, and they paired us up with someone. We had a virtual call, but they didn't like look at the lease for us. They weren't a specific lawyer for that thing. They were just some other type of lawyer. And so they gave us kind of good faith advice, but they couldn't really walk us through it and tell us what we needed to pay attention to. And I feel like I've encountered that in a couple organizations. And I just think that's because a lot of orgs have volunteers in the professional field. So maybe they don't always have like the right people at the orgs to help people who need it. Women enterprise, there's like a lot of good resources maybe to like talk you through some things, but when you need like a CPA, an accountant, someone to file your taxes, someone to help you with like the actual real life things that you're dealing with, I've found that like there's not much help. Unfortunately. Anyone else before we say goodnight and let you get back to it? I'm sorry you don't get to just go home and rest.
It's okay.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for coming
Thank you
tonight.
guys.
I appreciate
Thank you for having
it.
us.
Thank you guys.